it was a huge issue in the half pipe snowboard.
Yep.
Before it started.
Yeah.
And it's just you got to have snow.
There's some great stories. The U.S. Ice hockey team, huh?
It was awesome.
Sure.
It was
so great.
Showdown at the OK Corral or whatever.
So much fun, man.
Yeah.
Saturday morning.
Yeah.
You know? I mean, it was what? It was like 9 a.m.
We should mandate that there. I watch a lot of English soccer, so I have sports on every Saturday and Sunday morning. But we should have these we should start some NFL games at like 9 in the morning.
I love that.
Just right out of it's like it'd be like living on the West Coast. It's lovely to just wake up and be like, I think I'm going to watch a major sporting event this morning.
That was that round, and then the United States went on to win again yesterday. So did Russia. So are we going to see these two teams? Do you think
I think it's going
to the gold.
I think it's going to be. That's the first time they can meet is for the gold, and Russia would have to go through Sweden to get there, and potentially Finland too, and we'd have to get through Canada to get there. So it's going to be tough. I think it's set up for those big five, the teams everyone was looking for. Going in a USA Sweden final would be pretty cool too. I was kind of hoping Canada would win yesterday so that we could end up on the path to rematch the 2010 final when we lost to Canada. But, I think even a semifinal against Canada would be pretty awesome.
Yeah,
pretty awesome, right. Bodie Miller came through, huh?
Yeah, it's like this. This weekend was maybe a little turning point for the Americans. Maybe the first week and a half was just we can't get anything right.
Yeah, I was convinced he was going to fizzle out completely because his first couple events he just totally bombed.
But he was good yesterday, and it's nice to see. That interview afterward was a little interesting, but it's good to see. I mean, he's maybe the greatest downhill skier Americans have ever had.
Right,
he's done.
Right. And what he's got? This is 5 medals this time.
Six now. Well, he's 6 total in his Olympic career. And
oh, I see.
So
okay. Right.
He
but who's counting? Yeah, you bet he is.
Shaun White's not counting.
No, exactly. And the highlight, of course, the whole weekend was the Jamaican bobsled.
Always.
Yeah. Right.
I mean, it's Jamaica, and aside from being kind of the old.
They raised, what was it, over $150,000?
Got some of the what is the Dogecoin? The Bitcoin spin-off.
Yeah.
And they've, it's aside from being the typical Jamaican bobsled, the old Jamaican bobsled cool running story, they had to raise all that money, and they already had to cut down from a 4-man to a 2-man. They didn't know if they were going to get to Sochi. They got to Sochi, and all their luggage didn't get there with them.
Oh yeah.
I mean, it's a great story. I mean, I think it's easy for American fans to get caught up in are we winning medals?
Yeah.
But there's so many good stories at the Olympics that are just about people getting there and being there and competing on a world stage. And I think no one for the last 25 years has embodied that more than the Jamaican bobsled team. So this is the first time they've been back in I think 3 Olympics. So it's nice to see them there.
Now I got to tell you, it just happened to be in front of the TV when the skeleton was on. Now,
oh man.
Now, what I want to know is what's that all about? I mean, they get on this little sled. They go down that chute like 90 miles an hour, which is insane. But where's the sport?
Yeah, we were. I was at.
I know what you mean.
We were out,
right? I mean, first of all, you can't. How many people can practice that sport?
I don't know.
Well,
we were out Friday night and we were watching it on the TV, and the skeleton came on, and we were all kind of talking is the main obstacle in skeleton having the guts to do it? I'm sure it takes a lot of talent. They have the handbrakes on the side and everything. I'm sure but you couldn't even convince me to try
This is my thing with the Winter Olympics, as opposed to other sports.
How many skeleton tracks are there
That's
around the world?
Right.
So you're a kid, you start kicking a ball around with some friends, right? Turns out you're good at soccer. Or you start throwing a football back and forth, and you got a better arm than your friend. Turns out, oh look, you're good at football or baseball.
You're Usain Bolt and you can run really quickly in a straight line.
You beat all your friends in a race.
At
what point do you go, I'm going to go off of a ski jump and go flying the distance of a football field through the air? Or at what point am I going to go head first 90 miles per hour down an icy track?
But it's sort of an access thing, you know? I mean, how many and this is what I think when you talk about the Jamaica, you know, it kind of goes back into the Jamaican bobsled team. Like, Jamaica is the greatest sprinting country in the world.
Right.
And it's interesting because they don't have very many people. But at the same time, like, it doesn't exactly take a wealth of resources to run.
Right.
I mean, you need coaches, you need facilities and whatnot. But it's not like, you know, you can just up and decide to skeleton in Jamaica or a lot of or even most of the United States. I mean, I wouldn't know where you'd learn how to do that.
I mean, on the run thing, I just read this book called Born to Run, which is a phenomenal book. I mean, and the fastest runners in the world. I mean, some of them don't even wear shoes. I mean, you know, like, so you don't need a lot, right?
Right.
Don't even need to wear anything.
Yeah,
you just run, right? Because we're born to run. But back to this. Let me talk with that skeleton. I would never do it, but I have to tell you one thing. I mean, I don't mean to put down the sport, but if I started down that slope on that sled, I would end up at the bottom. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, how much you just go down, right? I mean,
well, the question is, would you end up on the sled at the bottom? Well, this is like Peter the other day saying he could do ski jumping.
I could probably do ski
jumping. Yeah. I could probably. And I told you, you would get there, you would land. I'm not sure you would be on your feet.
No, I will acknowledge this. I would probably. I would hit the wall a few times on the way down.
Exactly.
Well, in fact, I would be ricocheting off the wall probably.
The one I don't
down.
understand is the two-man luge.
Yeah.
What's the difference between the? I don't understand. Like, is the guy on top? Is he doing something too, or
do you go faster when you have
the two? I don't know.
I really don't know.
I mean, these are the kind of things, like, it's pretty easy to go out and learn the basics of a lot of the summer sports and the main sports because we see them all the time. But then you don't really even think about these but every 4 years. So then you're like, well, I want to learn what goes into this. And then once it's gone, it's like, well, I'm sure I probably read about all this during the Vancouver Olympics and somewhere over the last 4 years. It just kind of
there's just some parts of the Winter Olympics that I think they could forget about because they don't have much universality at all. But I guess that's
I think the skeleton's pretty cool, though. I mean, and I think it's one of the oldest ones. They've been doing it for a long time, I think. So they showed pictures of people doing skeleton from like way back when.
Wow.
And
I don't know. It's the first time I ever saw it. I was just mystified by it. I do have to ask you now, coming back here to home. So Jonathan Martin said there was a lot of ugly stuff going on down at the Dolphins with some of his colleagues on the team there with pretty ugly racist comments. And so they decided to do a little investigation. And the investigation showed
a lot of bad stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of racial slurs.
Really ugly stuff.
A lot of homophobia. It's, I think the interesting
on the part
of Richie Incognito and interestingly, two other Miami Dolphins offensive linemen, which I think the interesting takeaway from this, the interesting thing is that they went into this investigation apparently with a base level of workplace. Like they said, we are not going in expecting what a workplace would be. We are not going in expecting this locker room to look like a law firm or to look like an accounting firm. We're going in expecting an NFL locker room. And even then, this was beyond any reasonable expectation of what is possibly acceptable.
And what happens?
It'll be interesting. I
mean, will charges be filed? Or
I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting because obviously with their union structure, there's going to be I'm sure there will be punishments. I couldn't imagine there won't be, which will create a fight. The union's
Who
always
conducted the investigation.
The investigation was by Ted Wells, an investigator at a law firm who was hired by the NFL, which is another interesting thing.
Yeah.
Because I think this report really let off the executives. It cleared Miami head coach Joe Philbin. It cleared the front office. It cleared former GM Jeff Ireland. It basically said they didn't know about it. And my question, why? How? Mm-hmm. You're running this team. And they said, well, they told the players they should respect each other. Joe Philbin gave a speech about respect. Okay, but how?
Yeah. Right.
You're telling me you didn't know? And even if you didn't create an atmosphere where Jonathan Martin or that other player or the assistant trainer who was reportedly subject to abuse could come forward. And that's a problem. And I think that's a failure of leadership that needs to be addressed. And it's Richie Incognito, Mike Pouncey, and John Jerry, the 3 offensive linemen who were reportedly the abusers, deserve punishment. The people who enabled that, whether willingly or through ignorance, deserve punishment too. I think this was an institutional failure.
Right.
This was an organization-wide failure. And to let Joe Philbin and the rest of Dolphins management and coaches off the hook is a cop-out.
All right, what happens now as a result of this investigation with Miami Dolphins? And your take on the Olympics, your highlights or lowlights? 86. Soshi's a lowlight, I think. 866-55-PRESS is the toll-free number. We'll be right back. Travis Waldron from Think Progress Sports, thinkprogress.org.
This is the Bill Press Show. On your radio, on TV, and online. This is the Bill Press Show.
Here we go, 11 minutes before the top of the hour. Travis Waldron is with us, sports blogger for Think Progress, the world of sports here on the Bill Press Show this morning. You know, building from this Miami Dolphins investigation and whatever happens there, Travis, when you couple that with the response on the part of some coaches and unnamed management people in response to Michael Sam's coming out, right?
Right.
The NFL's got some public relations problems.
It does.
At the very best, right?
It does. And I wrote Friday that I think the NFL has to address this Dolphins fiasco too, even though it was largely in Miami.
Yeah.
I think that this type of behavior to this extent is probably not widespread. But at the same time, you're trying. Roger Goodell.
Do you really think it's the only locker room that has
No,
this?
I mean, I don't think it's the only locker room where this sort of behavior goes on. I don't know that it goes to this extent.
Yeah.
And Roger Goodell wants this league to be open to gay players, and it's a priority for him, and it should be a priority for him and everyone else.
Right.
And this scandal says, hey, you have work to do.
But there are people...
And the GMs that you mentioned that were quoted in Sports Illustrated, that says you have
by
work
the way,
to do.
None of them by name.
Right.
Which I thought was...
Which is...
and some of them saying, well, we may be ready someday, but that's way down the road.
Behind everybody else's
Not
homophobia,
now. Yeah.
It's not me. It's all these other guys who aren't ready. But
Right.
I think the players will largely be accepting. I think there will be issues.
Well, certainly his teammates at the University of Missouri were.
Right.
They knew it last August.
If Mike Sam helps win, the players are going to be okay.
Yeah.
And the coaches, his coaches are going to be okay. And I think there are organizations in the National Football League that will welcome Mike Sam with open arms and will say, look, we're here to win football games, and full stop.
Mm-hmm.
The craziest...
whatever else is, that's you.
Yeah.
And this whole idea that people are saying, oh, he's going to bring this baggage onto the team. Oh, he's going to bring his personal life onto the playing field. It's just like, look at who's playing in the NFL.
Right.
Look at the problems that some of these guys have.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And this, a guy that has his head on straight and happens to be gay, and this is what they're going to worry
I was
about.
trying to think of the Patriots player.
Aaron Hernandez.
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. Think about that.
Yeah.
Think about the violence that happens.
But I think that's
indicative.
indicative too. We talk about distractions. Everybody we don't want to deal with is a distraction. Aaron Hernandez didn't present much of a distraction to the New England Patriots this year.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
And so I think good organizations can handle anything like this.
Right.
It goes back to what I was talking about with the Dolphins about leadership. You have people in place who can handle running a team, and you'll be able to handle this.
Will Michael Sam will his statement affect the draft? Do you think? I mean, again, in the Sports Illustrated article, people are saying, "Oh man, this is going to hurt him."
It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell. I mean, Mike Sam is sort of a tweener prospect in the sense that he's a little small for a defensive end. He's a little maybe possibly slow for a linebacker. Mm-hmm. But the NFL has taken the undersized defensive end is in vogue in some places in the NFL now, and he's going to go through the combine next week, and he's going to go through pre-draft workouts for teams. Maybe his draft stock drops, maybe it doesn't. I think he's going to get drafted. It only takes one team to fall in love with him, and I think there will be plenty who see him and what he did at Mizzou last year and say this guy can play in the NFL, or is at least worthy of a shot in the NFL. I mean, he SEC co-defensive player of the year. He won the defensive player of the year award, the best conference in college football. Yeah. The closest thing to NFL football is.
Thank you for backing me up on that, by the way. Because I said that and took some grief.
if you win that sort of award in the SEC,
you're a real deal.
You're going to get drafted.
Yeah.
Right. Hey, Travis, thanks for coming in again today. And 4 years from now in the next Winter Olympics, you and I in the skeleton.
There we go.
Maybe the two-man luge.
There we go.
Or the bobsled.
Yeah.
We'll be there. We got a lot of time to practice. And I'll be back. Thanks, Travis.
Thanks for having me.
It's thinkprogress.org. I'll be back with today's parting shot.
This is the Bill Press Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
Hey, a lot of important elections this year, but as we've been talking this morning, none more important than last week's UAW election in Tennessee. Sadly, the workers down there ended up voting 712 to 626 against forming a union at that plant. And the big factor in that loss were the Republican state legislators who threatened to withdraw any support from Volkswagen and drive it out of the state. The governor made the same threat, and that persuaded 712 of those workers to vote against the union. It's a sad day for the workers and their families who will lack the protection and benefits only a union can provide. The union makes us strong. Without the union, those workers in Tennessee will always be weak. My parting shot for today, folks. Have a great President's Day. See you back here
This
again tomorrow.
is the Bill Press Show.